Good morning, everybody. We are Mortgage Post 411. I'm Audrey Boysnow with my co-host Kevin Casey, and today we are joined by the illustrious Brian, not to be confused with Dave, Brian Stevens with National Real Estate Post. How are you doing this morning, Brian?
Awesome. How you doing?
Good. A couple few things before we get rolling, Brian.
Sure.
Number one, I feel like it's really important to share this fact that I just came upon with everyone. Do you know that if you sneeze while you're driving at 60 miles an hour, your eyes are closed for around 50 feet? A lot can happen in 50 feet. So please, God, don't sneeze while you're driving if you don't have a bunch of car links in front of you. All right, moving right along. It is NMLS season. Guess how long you have to renew your until we get to the day, November 1st. We're a week away from November 1st, where you can renew your NMLS license. So,
do you know what percentage of people renew their licenses on December 30th? Get all their CEs done?
Do you know an actual number? Are you going to pull this right out of your,
No, I got this from MEC yesterday. They're talking about how they actually have those special courses on December 30th, not December 31st, because they got in trouble with the CFPB for doing classes on December 31st because not everybody finishes the classes in the same year. Because if you start a class online course on December 31st and it's 9 o'clock Eastern or Western, that's 12 o'clock Eastern, you're screwed.
So, if you're doing your NMLS on December 29th, something is wrong with you. So it's really important that you go into your NMLS Resource Center website to confirm that you have your education requirement done. I got an email saying that my password had expired. I haven't figured out whether that was some sort of spam thing or whether they're really calling or letting me know early that I need to go check it. A green mark means you're compliant, while a yellow mark means you're missing hours. Oh, it's a triangle. So visit Mortgage Educator's website and sign up. If you use the discount code COUNTDOWN, you get a big whomping, it's a big percentage off. I forget how much. Do you know, Kevin?
It was like 60%.
Holy guacamole.
Yeah, it's a huge percent off.
Well, that's worth it.
Countdown. Yeah.
That's worth it.
All capitals, count down, one word, put it in the special discount column and you get a huge discount there. It's pretty cool.
All right. Brian, are you still licensed?
I'm not.
Lucky you.
Okay.
I've actually thought about it, but it just brings on liability for me. And the truth is that I think I'm better off just being able to have a conversation where I feel I could be critical of any regulatory agency for fear of reprisal. I don't. The funny thing is I don't look at loans like I used to, but I think I see more loans now and more scenarios now than I did when I was actually writing loans. I hear about loans when something's going, tragically wrong with them.
Yes.
Right.
And that's so every day.
It's given me a better vantage point.
Interesting. Yeah. So I understand not wanting to have somebody hovering over your shoulder. I just came through a period where every time I'd get a phone call from a certain person, I'd be like, oh, here we go. And it was never my employer, God bless him. So, all right, where do we begin? There's so much to talk about. All right, let's start with NAR's little lawsuit that's going on right now and what that means to real estate, because we've been hearing about it. It's the Sitzer-Burnett class action lawsuit against NAR, and there's a lot of talk out there about what's going to happen to buyer commissions, and I have some opinions, but why don't you have a go at this first?
Nothing's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Really? No, nothing's going to happen. Hold on a second. A lot's going to happen, right? But nothing people think is going to happen. That's the truth. Okay, so if you guys remember this, when I think it was like GFE 2010, somewhere around there, if you're a mortgage broker, we had to start disclosing our yield spread premium and our service release premium. And everyone's like, oh, in the settlement statement, lenders are going to put their YSP and their SRP in there. It's like, this is bullshit. We don't want to do this because banks don't have to do this. So everybody ran towards banking because they wanted to hide their service release and their YSP on their settlement statements, because they said realtors and consumers and clients are going to see what we're charging on this and they're going to get ticked and they're not going to work with us and we're going to lose our income. And everybody flipped out about it. And this, by the way, was on one piece of paper. It was on your settlement statement.
Right.
And here's what happened. Nothing.
Right.
And I always said this, and I think you'll appreciate it, Audrey, is I said, if you're embarrassed about what you're making as a loan officer, then maybe you shouldn't be charging it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I was very comfortable with with what my fee was. And back then, I think what it really turned down to is there's like a sensory saturation that takes place, where we look at so much information, so much content in the purchase of a house or the acquisition of a loan, that it just dulls your senses. It dulls your senses to what you're looking at. Here's a true story. Let me just tell you real quick, anecdotally. The first deal I did, I was in my early 20s, and I had this gal. Her name was Barb Gill, and Barb Gill was my escrow officer, and it was like 30 years ago, and she was like tired for the business 30 years ago. Like, and I think she's still doing it today. But Barb Gill was one of these ladies who would she'd always have a cigarette hanging from the corner of her mouth like this, and she had to keep her eyes shut so the smoke didn't get in her eye. You know, and so she goes. So I had my very first clients. True story. She goes, "Here, sign this piece of paper." And I borrow, and he's over there looking at it and looking. He's like, "What does this say?" And she's over there. She goes, "It says you're going to live in this as your primary residence. Now sign it here. Sign this. And my guy kept going slow and reading the papers. And again, the set of docs was like a third of what they are now. And you can see her getting pissed off. And then after about the 9th time, he said, and I was so nervous, I didn't say anything to anyone because I had like a $2,500 paycheck on the other side. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to ruin it. And then he goes, what does this one say? And Barb goes, it says, if you don't sign it, you're not getting the loan and you're not getting the house. And oh, by the way, that's what every other piece of paper in this says. Now sign it. She did that. True story. She did that. And you want to know what they did? You want to know what they
signed
did?
it.
They signed it.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. As a loan officer or realtor, we are simply we are the speed bumps between keys and doors. That's all we are. All of our sense of self-importance as loan officers is very misplaced. We are the thing you have to do to get the thing you want.
Right.
That's it. So
keys, doors, and sometimes cash in your pocket.
Right. And cash in your pocket, but you get the idea. But and what we want to do is we want to navigate these waters, and we want to make the experience something where our clients look back and say, wow, I totally appreciate, what Kevin did or what Audrey did. Like that's what we're looking for. But the fact is, we're speed bumps, guys. So here's what's going on right now is this is going to get buried in every other piece of paper. Now, what's interesting, and by the way, the plaintiffs just settled on this yesterday. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. So the plaintiffs just brought their case in Missouri a couple of days ago. It's already settled. It's done. Really? They've rested. So we are going to have clarity on this in the next few days.
They rested. They didn't settle yet. They rested, right?
They rested. They didn't settle. They rested yesterday. So this is going to be sooner than it's going to be later. Right. Now you saw that the New York Board of Realty just came out and said, well, hold on a second. We're going to go ahead and proactively and preemptively get out in front of this thing and change how our contracts are written. What they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, when you're signing a listing, you're going to sign that specifically for your commission. It's not going to be for a buyer's side commission. If you choose to do that, you're going to do that in a separate contract that we can facilitate. It's going to look and feel a heck of a lot like it does right now.
Right.
Okay. It's just going to be an additional signature. And here's the thing. There's a lot of speculation and conjecture, depending on where you fall in this thing, that real estate agents are going to, there's fear that sellers are not going to want to pay a buyer side transaction, a buyer side commission. I believe if you're fulfilling your fiduciary, your legal and moral responsibility as an agent, what I would want my realtor to tell me, knowing something about the industry, is quite simply this. If you offer a buyer side commission, you are going to probably sell your house for more money and quicker, top dollar and faster if you offer that commission. That is the reality of the situation as far as I can see it. And now ask yourself this question. Does this mean that buyer side commissions are going to be negotiated up and down? Well, yeah, it does. Does this mean that
listing be negotiated up and down?
That always could be.
That's the point. If you go back and look at both sides of commissions for real estate agents, according to NAR's own data, it vacillates. It fluctuates every month, every day, every year. It goes up and down. It's been as low as the 4s, and it's been actually higher than 6. I don't ever remember seeing it higher than 6, but in the past 2 decades, we've actually seen higher than 6 and lower than 4. It's always been on the table for negotiation. And look at this like we would see like the help you sell discount brokers who come in hot markets. In every hot market, there's been somebody who's come in and says, we're going to do things faster and cheaper and easier for you. And then when the market gets tough, those discount brokers, those help you sells of the world, they all disappear.
Right.
The help you sells of today are the open doors.
Right.
So what's happening right now, I'll tell you this, and I believe this to absolutely be true. We are trying to create a vacuum where we're not going to have enough buyer side real estate agents. And that vacuum, we need to ask ourselves, is going to be filled by whom? Those are the folks who are behind these class action lawsuits to sully the reputation of real estate agents. And they're going to come in and fill that vacuum, fill that void with something that costs more money for consumers. They're going to pay a price that we don't even realize yet. And when the market changes, it would go back to traditional agents. I think as a representative of the mortgage industry and an advocate for loan officers and real estate agents, that we absolutely have an obligation to start having this conversation in our communities to let people know how insidious this is. It's not going to do a damn thing to real estate agents, but we need to educate and have the conversation. Now, the flip side of it, I think where we are going to really see some demonstrative work that's done is going to be to some of these larger brokerages that decided that they were going to settle these lawsuits. And I understand what RE/MAX is saying, why they settled. I get what their position is. I disagree with it. I understand why the Realogy brand settled with it. I disagree with it. By admitting fault, and that's exactly what they did, and we can have this argument all day long, but they did. Their actions suggest they're admitting fault. They're saying that their business practices since their inception have been wrong. And in doing so, have set themselves up for class action lawsuits in every state outside of that of Missouri. And so I think what's going to happen is this is going to be a real big hill to climb for the real estate companies out there. As far as the agents go, you're going to be fine. This isn't going to hurt you. Right. But here's the deal. Just think about it this way, Audrey. What do lawyers do? They sue.
Yep.
Lawyers sue. What do real estate companies do? Well, you buy and sell real estate, or so you thought. Now that you've entered the realm of lawyers and tort attorneys, you're going to find yourself in litigation, and that's going to be your primary function outside of real estate. And I think it's going to come at a real cost to some of the larger brokerages out there. The thing is NAR has decided that they're changing their stance. They're still fighting the lawsuit because NAR sees this. They don't have a choice but to fight this.
Right.
If they lose this, they say the foundation of what NAR is all about is illegal.
Goes away.
Right.
And they're opening themselves up for additional lawsuits.
Right.
NAR has come off this a little bit, and they're doing that because the settlements that we got from both RE/MAX and the Anywhere brands, the Realogy brands, is they told all their realtors, oh, by the way, we want to distance ourselves from NAR, just like Redfin did, and you don't have to go ahead and pay. You don't need to be a member of the National Association of Realtors anymore. This is to the tune of over 300,000 real estate agents, and when you look at $200 in annual commissions or annual dues on this, you're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars that NAR stands to lose. And with real estate agents being so cash poor these days, with a lack of inventory and opportunity out there, how many of them are going to choose to not renew those dues?
Right.
And I think the number is going to be huge. I think this is going to be massive for Realogy. I think it's going to be massive for RE/MAX, and I think it's going to be huge for NAR. And I think we're going to see tectonic shifts of bigger winners out there from some of the smaller brokerages. But as far as the agents go, it's buried in paper. Here's
the bottom line, and this is how I would approach it if I were a realtor. If I were listing a house, I would look at my buyer or my sellers and say, look, one very important component to this transaction is you need a buyer. And the best way to get a buyer is to have someone come bring them to you instead of you having to go find them. And so it seems fairly simple, but the lawsuits, I agree. Like if once you say that you've done something wrong, you are toast. Yep. I also had somebody throw out the idea that Fintech and Wall Street are behind some of these lawsuits because they own so much real estate and they don't want to pay 6%. And I'm like, there are 500,000 ways to look at how to not pay a realtor if you're a big, humongous company. But anyway, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that has any?
Yeah, Audrey, I've been talking about this on Mortgage Shots in the National Real Estate Post for years. And the Silicon Valley technology has a long, rich history of self-sabotage for long-term benefit. If you look at the early days of Facebook and their success, they were the first ones who created privacy lawsuits and litigation against themselves. Well, why would Facebook go out there and create a lawsuit against itself? And the answer is quite simply this. You don't see MySpace anymore, do you?
Nope.
And now we had the same thing with Christopher Dodd from Dodd-Frank. I don't know if people remember this, but Christopher Dodd said he was not going to get into lobbying 10 years after he put together that beautiful piece of legislation known as Dodd-Frank. And then he retired and he wasn't going to get into lobbying for 10 years. And 2 weeks later, he was hired by the Motion Pictures Association of America to represent their interest in copyright infringements. Guess who paid his salary? Google and YouTube.
Wow.
Why would Google and YouTube pay for copyright infringements when the entire platform was built on copyright infringements? And the answer is quite simply this. Who's YouTube's competitor right now? In short, what is expensive and difficult for the YouTubes and the Facebook of the world has been the death sentence of all their competition. This is what technology has always done. They have a dog-eat-dog, a very Machiavellian approach to business. So it stands to reason that the same DNA that's in those companies are in the fintech companies who are hurting the reputation of real estate agents and creating the void that they're going to occupy. They've got more money. Open Door has more money in a higher cap rate or cap value than every real estate company in the country combined, all of them. So they're saying what we're going to do is we're going to spend you into extinction. Right. And they absolutely have their hands behind this. Ask yourself, if a void is created, if we damage real estate agents reputationally to the point of no recovery, who's going to fill that void and follow the money? And I'll tell you this, if you think about it, again, just I don't want to get too much into this, but a real estate agent, I don't care what you guys think of them. And I know that a lot of lenders out there are with real estate. I get it. But think about this. A real estate agent has a legal and moral obligation to do what's in the best interest of that buyer or that seller. If they do it or don't, they have a legal and moral obligation, don't they? We know this.
Yep.
Did you know that the fintech companies, the alternatives, they have a legal and moral obligation to their shareholders, which puts them at odds with the clients? That means the people who are going to fill the seats and the shoes of the real estate agents, if we can get rid of them, actually have a legal and moral obligation to screw the same people over that real estate agents have to protect. That seems a little counterintuitive to me.
It really does.
And not to mention, when these companies take the money, they strip mine small America of that money that would get recirculated in these communities.
Into that
money's going to San Francisco and Seattle, where it doesn't need to be.
Well, and when you see the closing statements for those companies too, they'll say, "Oh, we're not going to charge you the 3% commission or the 6%, whatever it is." But
but a whole lot of other fees.
It is egregious. Like what they do to people, and people think, "Oh, click, click, click. This is so easy. I don't have to do anything. I'm saving money," and they're overpaying to the extent it's unbelievable that it's even allowed.
Well, Audrey, they don't. Hold on a second, Audrey. You're wrong. They don't charge commissions, Audrey.
That's what I just said. They don't charge commission.
Yeah.
But
no.
Just charge fees.
No, they do charge an experience fee. They do. That's what it's called. Wait, hold on. I'm not joking. They don't charge commissions, but they'll charge you a 10% experience fee.
Right. No, so I've seen the closing statement. So you'd be much better off paying 6% to someone and some title and escrow fees than whatever nonsense they're coming up. It's crazy that people don't get that, but it's because we're not shouting it from the rooftops. I mean, we should be showing examples, and I don't do it either. We should be showing examples of those closing statements, post it on your social media so people get what it really looks like. It's
just make sure to remove the clients' names.
Thank you.
I actually did this up and down California with the group called the Career Compass.
I remember.
And we actually had Open Door called us up and said, well, we want to send representatives, because we would speak to 500, 600 realtors. They said, well, we want to send a representative to give a counterpoint to what you guys are talking about at these seminars that you're doing. So we said, well, come on over. And, I got a multi-billion-dollar company, and then Brian. And we're having a debate on stage. Just mopped these guys up, because when you ask them questions about what the information they're producing, they had no answers to it. They're going on the assumption that your average realtor and your average consumer are not going to read what's behind what they're putting out. And we know that to actually be true. It's just if you put it out there enough, people are going to believe that to be fact. That's why it is. I'll tell you right now, that's why it is so important, Audrey, that we go out there and we have these conversations and talk about the demonstrative nature of these fintech companies. See, there's a built-in belief, a bias that we all have, that technology in and of itself makes everything faster, cheaper, and better. Okay, does it make it faster? It certainly does. Does it make it better? Absolutely not. Does it make it cheaper? Hell no. Right. But to the point to where it makes it faster, I also want you to think about this and look at the language that they use. Not a commission, but an experience fee. And they say, don't deal with the hassle of a real estate agent. And as a lender, you're an extension of that hassle. You're part of the problem. That's the narrative. So understand, this isn't realtors. This is you too. You don't want the hassle. You don't want the bullshit. You don't want all this stuff. No, come over here. We'll buy your house in 24 hours. I want you to think about this. What Open Door and OfferPad, what they call a hassle because they can close a deal in 2 days, I call safeguards and checks and balances.
Right.
That's what I call them.
Yes.
Because the course of a transaction allows a number of things to take place to ensure that not just the seller, but the buyer's best interests are protected on that loan, on the sales price, and on the asset that's being transferred. Those checks and balances are absolutely vital when somebody's spending $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. And if it takes another 15 or 20 days to have other inspectors go out there to do this for the hassle, it's well worth the time and investment to ensure that you're not buying a house that's a piece of crap. Listen, I had a friend of mine who bought a house in Walnut Creek. Walnut Creek's a cute little town out here in California. And it's kind of up on the hillside, right? Yeah. And my friend is a hairstylist, a real swanky one, but he's still a hairstylist. He's not filthy rich. He does well. And so he bought a house, and his house is on this hill. And then on that house, it had a drainage ditch that went underneath his house that broke. Whoop, that thing cracked.
Yeah.
There's another property that it broke and it cracked and it trashed the foundation of this house that was then covered up. So what they did is they knew there was a crack in the foundation of this house that was on stilts on this hill.
Wow.
So what they did is they put carpet in. Then once he got into the house and they pulled the carpet back, they saw a crack that went down the entire length of the house. Had that not been caught, the cost to Dave with structural engineers, my friend, would have been insurmountable. His $400,000 he spent at the time would have bankrupted him and had a lasting effect for the rest of his life.
Right.
Wow.
If he went down the open door route, the multi-billion-dollar company would have said, F you, you're stuck with it, and he would have been ruined.
Yeah.
But because he was dealing with the hassle of a traditional lender and a traditional real estate agent, everybody, including the seller's rights, were protected.
Yeah.
This is what we're really dealing with. It's not every time, but if it happens to you, you want that insurance policy, don't you?
This is the kind of thing that we as LOs can go to realtors with right now and talk to them about, because some of them are scared. Some of them are too dumb to have realized this was even going on. I mean that with all sorts of love and respect. Sorry. But those guys, if you're completely oblivious about all this, then maybe this isn't a profession for you. And maybe it is time for you to, but for the rest of them, for the people who are in this for the long haul and treating this like a profession, they need to have something to say. And if they are not getting the right information from their company, share this with them. This is, why are they of value? Talk to them about this. It's really important. So Kevin, who is typically in the land of the gray skies, is currently in Mexico. Did you figure in the hurricane that he apparently took with him, because it was gray skies for days, it looks like we have some blue skies now.
There's no hurricane here now.
All right, well, that's good to hear. So did you find out anything about buying and selling real estate in Mexico? I know you wanted to.
It's expensive down here.
To
buy? For a place to buy, yeah. Those are unbelievable prices. Something that you would want to buy a house, with a nice pool and a nice view. You're looking at $3 million to $30 million, depending on where you buy it.
Holy
unbelievable. A condo is about $500,000 to $600,000. Yeah.
Oh,
amazing.
God. All right.
But it is one of the few places in Mexico that an American can buy a house and own it and not have lease land.
Oh, it's Cabo. He's in Cabo, just to be clear.
Yes.
So
you can see it right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations on a blue sky for one day of your trip. That's great. And so, so do they use realtors down there, Kevin?
They do.
How much did they get paid?
And all the, I didn't get into that part of them with I just looked at the prices. I was like, this is not my, and it's like, as someone was with me, but this is still Mexico that we're buying these prices in.
Those are crazy prices for Mexico. Come on.
Things are a little different here in Mexico. Everything's mañana. And the best part is how they drive. The signs are suggestions. Your speed limit, your stop signs, those are all just suggestions. And I love the roundabouts where people just go straight through.
Well,
make sure to wave at the Sinaloa cartel when you're driving by them in those straight roundabouts.
Yeah.
Okay, so are the police standing up in the back of pickup trucks like they were in Cancun a year ago when I was there?
They still are doing that. Yep.
Oh,
and it's not just the police that do the standing up in the back of pickup trucks. It's like how everyone does it.
Well, and Kevin does have a picture of them preparing for the hurricane, and they were rescuing the beer. Seriously, like humongous bins of beer, making sure that was being taken.
That was when we knew it was time to get away from the coast. Was when they started rescuing the beers. The chairs I wasn't so worried about, but when the beers started coming out.
All right, so cheers to the beers. Great. All right, so moving. So the.
I did want to one little comment I want to talk about with the NAR. If I always thought if I was a seller and I was selling my house, a lot of people say, well, we'll do a 5% commission, get it down to 5%, and it'd be 2.5 split 2.5. I'm like, no, I'd rather pay the seller 3%. I'm sorry, the buyer's agent 3% and the seller's agent 2%, because that would encourage more buyer's agent to show my house to people. But it's interesting how the Justice Department has taken that idea and say, well, no, that's steering. And that's an interesting twist of how they've been attacking the NAR on this, about how it's steering if there's buyer's agent fees.
I think it's interesting. We always thought that, realtors, they had such a huge lobby, they were impenetrable, that nothing was going to get to them. And look what's happening. And I remember years ago when we went to W-2s as LOs, being in realtor meetings, they're like, well, that can never happen to us. And, it is. Don't ever say it can never happen to you. Don't think that you're too big to go down. It is, it's kind of ugh. Okay.
And by the way, I have a buzzard circling right over my head here. He's passed by a couple of times. It's quite interesting. So if I don't move or talk, he's going to get closer.
All right. So if Kevin starts wiggling, we know he's trying to avoid being a carcass eaten by a buzzard. Got it. All right. So back to Brian.
Yes.
So talk about HMDA and the CFPB. We had them on a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, and it was really interesting talking to him. It always is. The hour goes so fast. It's crazy. And they were not indicating that they are particularly focused on mortgages, that, they cover a vast array of financial services. But there was a little situation with Freedom Mortgage and HMDA and RESPA that came out right after he was here. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I want to make sure that everyone is aware of what they should be looking out for, since we do cover RESPA every single year in NMLS training, because they are finding problems with RESPA violations in all their audits in the states. Not all their audits, but a lot of their audits. So anyway, let's talk RESPA and HMDA for a minute. Brian?
What a joke. What a joke. Do you guys remember, did you ever do this? When Ally Financial got busted?
Nothing.
When Ally Financial got busted for, they said they were redlining and steering underserved communities, African Americans and Hispanic Americans, into higher interest rates on their auto loans. By the way, if that's true or not, I don't know. I'm not here to argue that point. But what I am here to tell you is when you get those auto loans, that there's no data that could be filled out, which is going to tell you what somebody's race or national origin is, or their ethnicity. So I found it very strange how they determined what somebody's ethnicity was to find Ally guilty of this infraction. Here's what they did. Look, you can look this up too. I actually did this with my team. So they put together an algorithm, and it consisted of a person's last name and their zip code. And then it gave a percentage of what your ethnicity was based on your zip code and your last name. And from that data, they sued Ally Financial to the tune of $60 million.
No.
They did. Yeah, they did. You can look at it. You can find it right now.
That's how that happened?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, we did this in our office, and it turned out it was right 50% of the time. Because here's the thing, because now, I think my partner at the time, Frank Gray, I think his name was like maybe Portuguese, which he's not Portuguese. And his daughter's name is Katie Evans. She was white, living in the same house. It's a very peculiar way of creating headlines. So here's the problem with HMDA. Is particularly now as the fabric of our culturally, as our fabric is sewn together right now, it's very difficult to determine with certainty what somebody's race or ethnicity or national origin is.
Yep.
I mean, I might be able to peg you, Audrey. You might be an easy one for me. Maybe not. You could be Hispanic.
Okay, let me just tell you. First of all, the name that I use is Boissonneau, which is French. But my married name is Rasique. If you saw Audrey Rasique, what would you think I was?
I would say Middle Easterner.
Right. All right. How about Harper Wong, who I have her permission to use her name. Beautiful MGIC rep for many, many years in the Bay Area. And so I love using her as an example. And again, with her permission, what would you think Harper Wong was just
Chinese.
by her last name?
Chinese.
Right. Guess what she is?
What?
She's whiter than me. I mean, for God's sake, we're not just marrying within our ethnicities anymore. So yeah, you got to be careful with that.
Well, and you know what the thing is when we have this conversation, everybody's assuming that we're doing it tongue in cheek and we're having a little fun with it, and perhaps we are. But here's the thing: the fines that are being levied against these mortgage companies, they're not funny and they're not tongue in cheek. That 1.75 million is real money, and this is for loan officers who might actually be having to guess a person's race or national origin or their ethnicity. Are you comfortable doing that? The head of the CFPB's name is Rohit Chopra. Where's he from? Now, maybe you'll figure it out. Maybe you won't, but are you willing to stake 1.75 million bucks on your ability to figure out what it is? And these are the guys who are enforcing this crap. And then I just told you what happened with Ally and auto loans, and it makes no sense. But here's the one that really gets me. And guys, I am not joking. I'm having a little fun with it, but I'm not joking here. Okay. It also has to do with somebody's gender. Okay. How long do I need to hold on to a file for? 5 years? What if my HMDA data is correct today, but wrong tomorrow? Do I then need to keep track of my HMDA data on an annual or a monthly basis? Because as we know now, and again, this is the world we live in. Don't blame me. Don't shoot the messenger. But if we now accept the fact that gender is fluid and it can change over the course of a day, a week, a month, a year, and even change back, my HMDA data, though correct today, could be wrong tomorrow. And if you think this is funny, and I'm joking around about it, go talk to Freedom Mortgage, who just paid $1.75 million. That's an honest question. I have to hold on to my loans. I have to hold on to my loans for a certain period of time in case I face an audit. If I have a HMDA audit and somebody's going to look at my gender and my ethnicity on these files, and we know that gender is fluid, am I going to face some punitive actions taken against me because I'm not up to speed with what somebody's gender is? Okay. And now we're talking about, just depending on where you go, look, now we're talking about upwards of 10% of our society. It views itself currently as being gender. And I don't listen, do whatever you want to do, whatever floats your boat, man. I am all good with it. But if it becomes punitive, it seems to me that we need to update our rules and regulations because the consequences are real, even though the conversation at points feels a tad bit ridiculous to me.
I think that what we have to, first of all, always make sure that you're thinking through these things, because you read a headline, you're like, holy crap, they had some violation. Oh my God. I mean, it doesn't even make you have to stop and think, well, okay, how did they come up with the answers on that? That's holy moly. I hadn't even thought about that, Brian.
Right.
I certainly had not thought about the gender thing, which, when my kids, my two youngest went to high school, their freshman year, apparently they came home with a list of like 71 different genders. And by their sophomore year, 1 year later, it was over 200. And I think it continues to expand. So how do you navigate all that? And really, if you're levying fines and if you're looking at this kind of thing, what is the intent of this exercise? Is it to make sure that you're not discriminating against, like actively discriminating? Because there are cases that they have settled recently where they go into your email when they're doing their audits and they find out that you're making all sorts of racist and egregious and horrible comments about people and neighborhoods and ethnicities, and all of that is not okay. That's one thing. But if they're just, chasing a fine,
they're digging for the fine. It's like how the police down here work. They pull you over.
Maybe you should wait till you get home to talk about this, Kevin. All right, keep going.
And then they find out how much money you have. And then, that's the bail for one of you, the commute. Yeah. And then the other guys have to go out and get some money and get the rest of them. Or one guy gets out to get the rest of them. That's, I think, how the CFPB does their fining. It's how absurd.
The way they used to, I don't know if they still do, but the way they used to, they'd go in with their attorneys, obviously, and then they would want to see your balance sheet, and then they would fine you.
But they don't want to just see your balance sheet. They want to see all the owner's personal assets also.
Well, I didn't know about that, but the balance sheet tells you how much a company has that they could potentially let go of before they're completely out of business. So, all right, here we go. Well, so holy crap, Brian.
There's a lot of meat on that bone, isn't there?
There's a lot of meat on that bone. Good Lord. Did you see, by the way, that the Federal Reserve voted to amend the 1977 Community Reinvestment Act? And they are now going to include mobile and online banking services and make it, they're going to scrutinize lenders and where they're lending more closely. Now, as IMBs, independent mortgage banks, and credit unions are exempt, and we do like 60% of the mortgages in the country. But I think it's interesting. I don't know how they're going to regulate that or look at that whole, I don't know how they measure that.
It's just, it's not, listen, when you look at home, I think everybody agree. I think everybody should agree that there's a wealth gap that needs to be closed. There's generational wealth that white Americans have had advantages from, not all of them, but certainly a larger portion of them. And we know that underserved and disadvantaged communities, we need to do things in order to bridge that wealth gap. I think everybody would agree with that. Home ownership is going to be a big part of it. And for a bunch of reasons, there's a million different studies that will show you that communities do better, schools do better, crime goes down. You know, like we all get it. We're all on the same page here. But when we look at home ownership rates amongst minority groups across the country, in many cases, they're lower than they were back in the 1960s when Jim Crow laws were still in place. You can go right now as a loan officer, anybody, you can go right now and do a Google search and go find deeds of trust that are still out there, still recorded, that say that you are not allowed to sell or rent your property to an African American. You can still find it. You can look it up right this minute and find it.
There's lots of them.
So and at that time we had higher home ownership rates than we have today. So what this tells me again is if we're going to look at results as solutions, we have done things horribly wrong.
Right.
And what this sounds to me, Audrey, is this sounds like a hell of a lot more of the same, which is grandstanding. You know, we're in an election cycle right now. So clearly candidates are going to hold on to this and use this for political advantage. And it's not only not going to get us any closer to solving the problems that we all agree need to be fixed. Frankly, if history is to prove outright, it's going to get us further away from where we need to be. And so I certainly, of course, they're going to do it. Why wouldn't they? How many times have we spent billions of dollars to bridge the home ownership and the wealth gap? How many laws, rules, and regulations have been changed? How many overlapping rules? How many different agencies? How many agencies right now govern every mortgage lender out there who has enforcement actions that they could take against any mortgage lender for any of these infractions? And we are further away today than we've ever been. So clearly what we're doing right now isn't helping.
Well, I think that a lot of times it's the messaging. Oh, you know, if you say enough negative things about, oh, there's so much discrimination, there's so much this, it deters people from thinking that they are able to be part of home ownership. So it's up to us to get out there and just shout from the rooftops. That is not true. You can absolutely get a loan, and let me help you figure that out, whether I need to help you with your credit or your whatever, and let me help you. So that's part of what we need to do. I just want to address a couple of the comments in the chat. First of all, Jill said that she too got the password from NMLS saying that her password, or that she got the email saying her password was expired. So apparently that's a real thing. So don't be afraid. Just go to NMLS, figure that out.
I just always figure my password expires all the time.
I just can't remember one.
Well, there was also a question about the discount code that we talked about. That is for NMLS renewal. It is on the Mortgage Educator's website. And if you use Countdown, Kevin says it's 60% off. It's a big number. So is it all cat? Doesn't matter. I don't know if it matters.
I think it doesn't matter, but it's for it's for your state classes. State-specific courses.
Oh, it's for all of them. But if you have multiple states, you can use it for.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And actually, I learned a little trick yesterday. If you have multiple states, negotiate with the provider for a discount, because you don't want to have to be paying the $39.95 for each state, you know, over and over and over again. Because there's someone on I was taking my Oregon renewal class yesterday. There's a gal on there, and she had all 49 states that you could be licensed in. I guess I'm assuming New York was not one of them, but
wow,
that's the hardest state to meet. And so how many courses of other states that she had to take? It was ridiculous. And the crazy thing is these states don't vary that much. You know, Oregon doesn't differ that much from California in a lot of ways. So, like, why do I have to spend 2 hours learning? And most of the stuff we're learning is federal stuff anyway. So it's crazy, but what can we do?
Thank you for whining about that. So we have Chris who made the comment. I think Chris needs reunification therapy with realtors. Made the comment that real estate agents are the greediest, most self-centered people that I know. I did see a post from a realtor, not a local realtor here, thank God, that was ranting about LOs and how they don't need us, we need them, and they're so expendable, and we're not going to look out for them. Oh God, it was so crazy. I'm like, just
cats and dogs. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what is up? Right?
Actually, I would say most realtors or most lenders I know, the lenders the realtors they work with are their best friends in many cases.
Yes, they should be. I mean, you should be friends with the people that you work with. Like, work with people you like and respect, so that they're treating your clients as well as you're treating your clients. So
absolutely,
it should, again, reunification therapy. Maybe we can get a discount code for that, Kevin. We'll have to find out. Someone made the comment that you're alive, Kevin, and Dirk said, "Sure, it's not an attorney buzzing around you, Kevin." So anyway.
There's multiple of them now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
I got 3 of them.
In other news, some good news. Let's talk about good news. So FHA is now allowing ADU income to be used to qualify, which is a big deal. So there's a couple of things. Number one, this is new. So we don't know all the guidelines. You're going to have to check with your lenders as it rolls out. So do not quote me here, but just know that this is now an option for you. So here's how it goes from what I can tell so far. So 75% of estimated ADU rental income can be used on a property with an existing ADU. 50% can be used on an estimated income for a new ADU that you're planning to attach to an existing structure, like a garage conversion or a basement conversion, to qualify for a 203K rehab. They're giving guidance to the appraisers on how to handle all this, and they're adding ADUs to the types of improvements that can be financed under the FHA mortgages. And things to note are, it says in quotes, for some borrowers, as far as who can use it. I don't know what that means. So we're going to have to figure that out. And also, if I recall correctly, Kevin, do you remember when we had Julie and Joseph on here with FHA? She mentioned something about how the ADUs had to attach physically to the property.
Yes, they couldn't be separate. Just
so
weird.
it might be, so just kind of watch out for that, because a lot of people are building an ADU in their backyard, like a separate building or whatever. And so we'll have to see what that means exactly. Does it mean that this has to be attached, or?
Yeah. And then the differences between a California ADU and the rest of the country's ADUs, and they don't even know how to handle that, because in California, an ADU is very legal. And the rest of the country, you can have an ADU and you could be renting it out for years, and all of a sudden the city comes along and say that's not a legal ADU, and they shut it down. Well, where are you then?
That's still happening?
That still happens.
All right. Well, there you go. Brian, any input on that?
I already have really bad parking on my street.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think everybody on my street should have an ADU and have a second family living in their backyard. I think that'd be killer for parking. I think it'd be super cool.
Listen,
I think this is like such an awesome idea.
They're going to shame you in the NIMBY, not my backyard argument.
So what? At least I admit it. I'm not a hypocrite. I don't want it in my backyard.
I don't want it.
At least I admit it.
Well, I'll tell you
the one I like in California right now is Governor Newsom just said that every church can go ahead and turn their parking lots into homeless encampments to deal with our ever-growing homeless problem. That's a solution to the homeless problem. Now churches can turn their parking lots into homeless encampments. Here's my thing. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful idea. Here's the question. How many of those churches, those God-fearing folks, are going to be comfortable having a bunch of homeless people in their parking lots? And the answer is none of them. None of them.
Well, you can't say none. There's at least one. The one who there will be one, right?
Who's that?
There'll always be one.
The one church that has nobody going to it, so the parking lot's sitting empty. So that's how they came to it.
Who's that crook who's on TV, who's down in Tennessee, who's got that mega church? Joel Osteen. Remember Joel Osteen? Wow. Remember when was it when Nashville or whatever it was, it flooded, like everybody was underwater, like all those people were displaced, and he wouldn't let anybody into his church.
Wow.
Not his backyard. But see, he's being a hypocrite about it. Like all these churches, they're all you watch California. Next time you see a church that has a homeless encampment, I'll be thrilled when my neighbors put these units in their backyard. Not gonna happen.
So we had a comment saying this guy is right on, meaning you. I just wanted to, I wanted to write that in the comment by the end of this, as you keep going with all these things. I mean, again, like there is a proposal in my neighborhood, and I live in an area where we're 5 minutes from like world-class shopping and fantastic food, and where everyone's on a half an acre. So, and there's wildlife, no sidewalks, no street lights. I love it. It's a Wild West. And they're talking about, oh, we should build these condos. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to live near condos. I would buy in a downtown area if I wanted to live near some fancy condos. So anyway, I don't know. Okay, so somebody's asking, does anyone know why it's on the LO to try to guess if the client refuses based on their surname and visual, and how wrong it can be? And for those, especially at LO who never met, blah, blah, blah. Why is it all on the LO? And I don't know.
Someone's got to do it. And by the way, just understand this. It's never been about finding a solution. That's my whole point. This has never been about finding a solution. Having a solution means we have to have accurate data. We don't need accurate data. We need enough data to create talking points so that our elected officials can get on bully pulpits and let you know how much they're not doing for you.
Well, we have another comment.
The solution is in the results, and we don't have any solutions. It's not about getting accurate information. It's never been about getting accurate information.
So I happen to be head of a charity, and I have come to learn that when it comes to government money, they exactly what you're saying. They're not about solving the problem. They're about getting more money for the government agencies that try to solve the problem. I'll go quote and quote on the try part. They don't want to solve the homeless problem. They don't want to solve the low income problems. They want to just get more money so they can get and hire more employees and can have a bigger budget. And that's just how government is.
Well, I'm going to say that probably is true, even though it was the whitest guy I know who said it. So TJ, TJ, I should have said your whole name. She said, don't they sign the application below the HMDA questions? And that's true. The borrower is signing the application saying this is right? So I wonder how they do bust you on that.
What about it? What if your client actually puts in a race or ethnicity that you disagree with? Do you override it? Do you supersede it? What if you're taking an in-person application and somebody's clearly white and they put in African American? Are you supposed to go in there and correct that? Who's filling it out?
They are.
I don't know.
But do I then go in there and do I change that? Do I correct it or not correct it? Do I have a right to correct it or not? Again, Freedom's getting busted for the accuracy of their HMDA data, and we don't even know who's filling this stuff out. And we don't know the accuracy or the motives behind the person who's filling it out, either the client or the loan officer. You don't know. How can you accurately go out there and punitively go attack somebody based on what we already have established on multiple levels as faulty information? And listen, I don't know anything about Freedom. I know some of the people of Freedom. I know who Freedom is. I'm not advocating for them. I'm not beating them up. Freedom just happens to be the name in front of us on this. I'm saying this could be anybody. I'm saying this is anybody. The fines are real, guys.
Okay, somebody just posted that Concord, the city of Concord, which is not very far from here, just approved an ADU in someone's front yard. Oh, good God. Good God. Okay, so because
must be off of Concord Avenue.
Oh, okay, don't be so judgy. Jeez Louise. Come on, Concord Avenue's fine. All right, so we want to
Clayton Valley High School.
What?
Clayton Valley High School.
Oh, well, congratulations. All right, we're going to end this on a high note. Do you understand, Brian? A high note. So focus. We're going to talk about things that you're seeing work for LOs right now and going into 2024. How do we close loans? How do we create new relationships? What are you seeing people do that's working?
Well, there's a couple of things that I would do right now as a loan officer. First of all, don't look at this as downtime. Look at this as a way to reboot your business.
Yes.
In fact, I'm looking at this as a unique opportunity. We're coming off the hottest market we've ever had, and we're in one of the coolest markets. This dichotomy, this chasm, is going to create a hell of a lot of winners and losers. My career is a result of what took place during the last downturn, and I've written that for almost 2 decades now. We're going to find champions of the next market. What I would do as a loan officer is this. Understand the tea leaves, read the tea leaves of what the future holds for you, and then adjust your sales accordingly. We know that there's going to be massive attrition in the real estate lending community over the next 12 to 24 months. Regardless of rates, who cares about rates? That means you're going to have 1 out of 3 real estate agents will not be here. They're going to be the bottom of the barrel agents, okay? Which is neither here nor there. But what I would do as a loan officer right now is, one, I would get my systems in place. I would make sure that I am as organized as humanly possible. I would have my procedures and protocols done. I'm establishing with my teams that I work with over here, with what we're calling a ritualized business plan. We're ritualizing the entire process. So it's the same for the first as it is for the last, and in comes a prospect and out comes a ravenous referral source. Then what I would do is I would find my referral sources and I would start picking them up like baseball cards. Now, as a young boy, I can't say for a young girl, or maybe a young girl, I don't know. I'm not making any judgments here. I'm just saying you would go ahead and pick the baseball cards of the fellas and the gals that you wanted, the football cards, or whatever you want to call them. But you would pick the ones you want. I would start to very tactically and strategically go after referral sources and try to cement those relationships now for when the market does turn. Don't look at it in terms of the business you're going to get next week. Go find winners, go find killers, draft your team. Draft your team right now, not only with agents, but establish those deeper, much more fulfilling B2B partnerships that you have out there, and get yourself positioned for when the market changes. Again, organization, make sure you understand your CRM better than you ever have. Have one, use one, establish, like I said, your procedures and protocols, understand how to use the technology pieces that accentuate your best qualities, because you are your best quality.
Right.
And ride this out. So when the market changes, that you guys are going to be positioned, because most people right now are just twiddling their thumbs trying to figure out what comes next. So for instance, right in 4 minutes, I've been doing a sales book club for loan officers. I've been doing it now for 4 years. And so we go through different sales books on a weekly basis that we apply to the mortgage space. That's been extremely helpful for all of us. We've now transferred this into groups of crowdsourcing ideas amongst loan officers from different companies called pods over here on our end, which has been extremely beneficial. And we're finding solutions from loan officers for loan officers. I would suggest that education becomes front and center for what you're doing right now. It's not even a question, because if not, the alternative is you might not be in this business next year, because every one of the soothsayers out there are telling you it's going to be a hard few months. It's a hard few months for its production, but it should be a hard few months for your learning curve. You should make these hard months to learn the hard things in order to position your business.
I would also just like to plea with people that next time we're busy, to not whine about how busy you are and how tired you are and you need a break, because the whole time we were busy, everyone kept complaining, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I kept saying, we're going to get to a point where you're going to be sorry you said that. And here we are. So just remember that we go in cycles in our business. This is a cyclical business. It's never going to just be flat. It's always feast or famine. That's how it has been in the 34 years I've been doing loans. I don't anticipate a change. And so this is why we don't buy Ferraris during our best years. And it is, but we as LOs have been so loosey-goosey, a lot of people, with our businesses, our time, our schedules, our databases. I mean, I am as guilty as the next person. And so I've been using this time to really buckle down and get serious about systems and organization, getting my email under control. And it takes some time, it takes some dedication, but it is worth it. And you want to be able to launch yourself into the next market when it does get busier. And I hope that all those people who haven't treated this as a profession get out. Honestly, if this is not your profession, you shouldn't be doing loans. It's too important. It is, you're handling people's largest asset, to put it mildly. You're so important in the decisions they're making. You shouldn't be doing this if you do a loan every once in a while just because it falls out of the sky. So tune in, educate yourself, be curious, get organized, all of the things that Brian is saying. So tell us about you've alluded to your thing. Tell us, I mean, we know your National Real Estate Post. We know that you have your videos that you put out. We know that you carry a tiny bit of passion into your opinions, and your research is fairly solid. I'm joking, people. Solid. So tell us about your groups. Tell us, are people able to join those? How does that work?
We have a list if people want to get on it. It's a cost of time and energy. It's not a cost of money. We're crowdsourcing. So basically, artificial intelligence is going to take existing information and then draw a conclusion based on what's out there. So we actual intelligence things. We crowdsource. So what we do is we have loan officers from all around the country, and we have different issues that we tackle, and we do it as a group. So it's all the solutions and questions come from loan officers, by loan officers, for loan officers. But what we do is we put everybody in pods of 6. So we get 6 loan officers from different companies, different areas of the country, and you work within your pod. And in a pod, you have your accountability partner. Again, somebody you don't know, we place you with them.
Like so that.
You work within your pod for solutions, and then we take all the pods and we work them together where we can. So we have a micro and a macro solution to the issues that are facing the mortgage community. With your permission, I would love. Listen, please. I would absolutely love to get this out to your audience right now. If you guys are interested in pods, I will have a form that if you guys can send it out, we will certainly reach out to you, and we'd love to get you guys into our ecosystem. This is for you guys.
We have a problem with our chat. We can't, they're not going to be able to see it. So what you can do, give me the form. I will give it to the guy who manages our YouTube system. We'll embed it with this video when we post it on YouTube. So, and if somebody emails me or calls me or texts me, says they want it, I'll send it to you. So,
actually, I'll do this real quickly. If people want, you can just go ahead and send me an email with your information. Just send it to mortgageshots@gmail.com. It's easy. Mortgage.
Oh, perfect.
Shots or mortgage shots. Mortgage.
I'll take a shot versus a shot.
Mortgageshots@gmail.com. Send me your information, and we can we'll get you guys part of our ecosystem. We'd love it.
That'd be great. No, I think that's dead on. That's great. Thank you so much. We really love you and appreciate you being here today. Everyone, we will see you next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and join us on YouTube. You can speed these conversations up and watch them even faster than they go. All right. With all that, see you later. Have a good trip back, Kevin. Bye.
Later, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Later, skaters.